Hey guys, Warborne Above Ashes is finally out in open beta. It just launched on September 19th. You're not too late to come play. These are the patch notes that they released with the launch. I'm going to go through them section by section. I read over the beginning part, so I'm not going to go literally line by line like I usually would. The video would be way too long if I did that. But yeah, let's get into it. Vyra is a new character that just came out. Seems like she's pretty good, but I think that you have to pay for her rather than unlocking her conventionally. From what I've heard from people that are using her, she can be used in like a variety of ways, but I think a lot of people are using her with curse staff if you do end up picking Vyre. Um, New weapons and equipment. I'm not going to go over this stuff. This is just new stuff that got added. One of the most notable things that was added that's in this section is warding armor, which reduces the damage of somebody that hits you by 40% for 4 seconds, or for basic attacks anyway. And also armor scaling with power, as well as the cyclone boots. Those are probably the two like most important things that were added to the game. I think that both of those things will get used a lot. If you're a healer, I definitely think that it is worth looking into using warding armor as one of the options that you might consider in one of your kits. Cross server auction house means that all of the different auction houses are connected. So if there's inflation for solar bite, or in some cases deflation, depending on sold items, it's going to be noticed across all servers, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. Um, and I think that it keeps certain monopolies for the currency at bay. Banehole's extraction is going to be cross server, but not cross sector, same as before. I think that that makes sense. The other, what I would call more dead servers or the less populated servers, still want to be doing content, so keeping them in the loop is good. Faction capitals exist now. This is a giant hub that provides buffs to your faction's island area. Um, that can be owned by one of the guilds within the faction in order to benefit you. It can be taken by other warbands, but if they take it and they're not in faction, they won't be able to give buffs to the area, which, yeah, that makes sense, right? Um, Open world vaults now exist. I'm not really sure what this means, even a couple days into the launch. If it just means launch vaults under hubs, that makes sense. Um, I haven't seen anything to the contrary, though. This isn't anything different than the normal vault system that existed during the playtest. A central server at the end of season, there's going to be like a middle cross server space in order for people to like duel and hang out and stuff like that. This hasn't obviously been accessible yet. The season didn't end, it literally just started. So we'll see what that looks like later on. I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about it at the moment. The league seasonal legacy system, these are the things that are reset every season, either partially reset or things that are kept across season. So you have your Driftmaster titles, avatars, sprays, cosmetics, things like that, mounts, equipment battle scars, unlock items, solar bite, eclipsium, and unlocked drifters, all going to be kept from season to season. Huge W. That means that once it's unlocked, you're going to be able to use these characters next season, which means season two at the beginning, the very beginning, is going to look very different than season one, because you're going to have access to characters that you wouldn't have had access to in season one until later in the season. Um, Things that are partially reset are like Legion ranks. I'm not really sure that I'm sold on the Legion rank partial reset, but we'll see how it works in practice. As far as things that do all reset, you're going to have your items are going to reset, anything in inventory, starfall, currency, anything that's tied to progression, your research, all that stuff is going to reset every season. So it's going to create um, a wealth of content every time that the new season starts for players to do, even if they're, diehard veterans to the game. I really, really, really enjoy this system. In my opinion, this seasonal system, is the thing that makes Warborne, in a way, better than Albion Online. I compare the two because they are so outrageously similar, right? And don't get me wrong, I still love Albion. I just really, really enjoy this version of a seasonal system where almost everything gets reset except for meta progressions. New season settlement rules. This is stuff that's going to be added to the end of the competition season for um, settlement. Settlement is what happens at the end, like based on the amount of points that each warband and faction and stuff like that has. I'm not going to go into that. If you want to see the season settlement rules, they are in the patch notes right here. Queuing and map capacity rules. After a couple of days of trying this doesn't seem like it's too much better than the original system that they had. Just know that there are priorities in the queue. So if you're in a map and you're attacking a hub is a fortress or area held by it's like a territory held by um, different warbands. If your warband is attacking another hub's warband, you guys will both get priority in the queue. That means it'll be harder for you to get sucked out of a map based on power or the number of players in a map. This seems like it still needs to be tweaked a little bit, and I think that the player limit being 200 makes it so that the battles are still significantly large enough that like they can be fun 100 versus 100 or 60 versus 60 versus 60 battles. But at the same time, when you have a faction that has like 400 people in it, having half of your faction or more get cut out of like a battle that is going on, it doesn't feel good. I'm gonna be really honest. Um, Faction transfer adjustments. I really think that this is something that still needs to be iterated on, but I'm glad that they have done some iteration already. Um, Basically, you're going to get a token at the beginning. You should have it in your inventory in order to change from one faction to another. Once you get to a certain length into the season, you're not going to be able to change um, factions from one to another with a regular transfer. If you do change factions late, what's going to happen is you're going to just lose a bunch of your um uh what is it called, faction, your points. I can't think of the word right now off the top of my head. Contribution. You're going to lose your contribution from switching factions to a better faction if your faction is losing, to kind of disincentivize that in a way which I really enjoy. I don't want people switching factions. If you're losing, it's only for that season, guys. Like your faction's not going to lose every season theoretically. Um, and I'm sure that people are going to be switching around and moving or whatever based on previous seasons. We'll see what that looks like later. Diplomacy is a pretty big thing in this game. Harvester hub adjustments for defense fields, long range attacks prevented from damaging the hub without risk. Basically, this is a way huger change than I had originally read when I looked at it. There's like a field of damage that literally one shots you if you're not like of the tier or higher. I think it's hard to know how much damage it actually does, because if you even get remotely close to the hub, it instantly kills you. Basically, what that did is it made it so that melee demolishers are just significantly better now for whatever reason, because they just have more health, ergo can do more damage, right? They changed the scaling on combat for a bunch of things. One of the most notable changes here, I think, is that Varnax got hit both with another agility and strength growth nerf. I think Varnax is still okay, but as I said in my tier list video, I'm biased against him. I wouldn't personally use him in the long term, um, especially as a tank. Core stat changes were changed. There were a lot of changes to the way that base MP and MP regen works, but based on the early part of the game, it looks like that's not too much of an issue. And I really, really hope that it doesn't, like, that it continues not being an issue further into this season, basically. Um, they made it so that buffs and debuff skills now apply a cannot be spelled or immunity cleansed for a whole bunch of different things, to include Banner of Justice, Vulnerability, Charge, and Mana Font. I think that there are some abilities that just shouldn't be able to be dispelled, but it seems like the dispel meta is still going to be pretty strong, I think, especially since Nile Staff, the Curse Staff, is still pretty strong, to be honest. Drifters changes. Most notable changes here: adjustment for Ari. She loses her shield effect, but is still pretty damn strong, in my opinion. Aegis is losing his damage resistance buff in favor of a damage increase, which is a little odd, if I'm being honest. I don't know that Aegis needed to be somebody doing damage. And they also changed it so that Draknor is going to have a dash in the middle of his ability in favor of not dealing damage on contact. I think that I think that's bonkers. It depends on how that works, but realistically, they shouldn't be giving Draknor another way to move around. He's already really good at doing his job, in my opinion. Some of the other changes here that are listed, I'm not going to go over. Lastly, at the bottom here, Moonvale's MP recovery getting changed in lieu of all of the mana changes. We'll see how that plays out. Moonvale comes out in like a day, I think. I think a lot of people are really looking forward to see the changes for her. Weapons. I'm not going to go over all of the weapons changes here. There are a ton of them. I highly, highly, highly recommend that if you played previously, that you go over these changes. If you haven't played previously, that's the reason I'm not going over all of the changes because it doesn't make sense. Just know that they changed the way that armor reduction scaling works from flat percent to a value. So it's probably more effective against lower armor and less effective against higher armor targets than previously, which just makes it so that tanks are tankier and people that are not tanks probably die at about the same rate. Um, it seems like firearms got like very, very slightly buffed. Firearms are, in my opinion, better than they were previously. Bow is just a side grade, not really anything like really, really, really shockingly different on a bow. You know, it's funny. I haven't seen very many spears this go around. We saw them literally all over the place in the previous playtests, but I think that spears in general have fallen out of favor. But I don't think that that makes them any worse than they were previously. Only with minor changes. And you could say for example, even with Warding Flourish, which is the Q, all it did was get changed for armor reduction and reduction scaling, and the regular attack on Piercing Spear made it so that it hits multiple enemies in a straight path. So if anything, Spears got a little bit of a buff, which is weird that they're not going to be used as much. Daggers as strong as usual, just some armor scaling, some cooldown stuff, MP stuff, nothing really, really crazy. Bloomstaff MP recovery coming down with the same rate as the MP changes that are going on in accordance with Moonveil and the max mana changes that happened. Breeze of Resurgence got a huge healing rate buff. Love to see that, to be honest, dude, because I think that that weapon is very underappreciated. Fire weapons, still very not good in my opinion. I think that the cast time for a lot of this stuff and fire weapons needs to be changed really badly in order for them to be like worth a shit, in my opinion. Ice foci, hugest difference I think that exists on ice foci is the frost armor passive change that happened. Basically, they made it so that you're gonna gain less shield but more often. So it's gonna be better for like 1v1 scenarios and stuff like that if you know how to kite well. Radiant Flux, this is the holy healing weapon. Didn't seem like there was too much changed here. I think that these are just small changes, like adjustments. Um, holy weapons still, presentably very good for healing. I don't think that anything has changed there. And then Void Caller, this is the curse stabs. Obviously, there's not a lot of changes here. Just the way that magic reduction was scaling. Magic reduction and armor reduction were both similarly changed from percent to flat value, scaling with power. Curse stabs, notoriously strong at the moment, by the way. Very, very strong. A lot of people using them. Armor, I don't recall there being like too many insane changes other than some like sun time increases and stuff like that. Basically they made it so that cleanse meta and CC meta is still very, very strong. Not going to go over all these changes. As you can see, there are a lot of them. Same thing for tactical items. Just know that the large like chunk of this is going to be mostly mana changes, cooldown adjustments. Won't even say like changes because it's really only like a couple of seconds or something. The way that armor scales, or the way that armor reduction is scaled, the way that magic reduction is scaled, and then as well as some duration stuff, right? Nothing insane. So if you played previously and you're playing now, you're not going to notice too many like battle to battle changes. The overall fight arch, right, it is going to be the same. It's not any different from what I could tell in the very early part of the launch. um Mass haste matrix did get a little bit of a nerf from 80% to 60%. I genuinely don't think that that really even matters. I think that even 60% is, in my opinion, outrageously strong. They could nerf mass haste matrix all the way to 35%, and it would still be strong. So I think that as someone who is a mass haste matrix user, I think that this item in general probably needs to see some kind of a longer cooldown or something. Um, Maybe even a duration reduction for some things. Again, mostly just cooldown stuff. Not very many like huge changes that happen. Weekend potion got a little bit uh, worse as far as the slow because it's specifically only being used for damage reduction. We'll see what happens with frost potion healing getting changed, but I don't think that it's really going to matter. The one primary use for it is going to just be to save your life. Lots of mod changes. Again, going back to the same thing, mostly just armor reduction changes, magic reduction changes, MP recovery changes. It seems like they have overhauled the entire mana system overall, given that they increased the base mana for all of the characters in the game and reduced the amount of recovery in the game. And I'm not sure why they did that because prolonged fights don't really exist in Warborne like that. Like you're not going to be fighting for 40 minutes and not die, right? And if you are, it's because you're rolling over the enemy team or you're playing tag, right? But it seems like Warborne has very much of a brawl meta, um, or like a melee clap meta, if you will. Not going to spend too much time reading over every single change. If you want to see the changes, guys, I will link the patch notes in the description for you to go through line by line. I'm just going to let this go for a little bit so you could see some of these changes if you want to pause. This way you don't have to pull up the whole link if you want to know something specific. Um, that is all of the changes that we see here. One of the things that I will say as somebody who's playing on the main NA server um, on Warborne, it seems like the one faction ruling the whole map thing is gone, given that they reduced the number of hubs that are able to be taken by any given guild. I think it says it up here. Um, I don't want to spend too much time looking for it if I can't find it, to be honest. All right, I'm not gonna spend too much time looking for it. Just know that they reduced the number of hubs that can be owned by any given warband to 10. What this means is that if you take a straight line across the map to get to the center, that's going to be the total number of hubs that you can own, as where previously guilds would take over half the map, right? Like it was very, very, very different on the test. If you guys have any questions, if you have anything to add, or if you need any help or anything, feel free to comment. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel, guys. I'm going to be putting lots more content out for specifically Warborne. This is the game that I'm going to try to get the most into right now. I am still playing Albion, I would say, on the side, and I'm going to do videos for that if people request them. But this is going to be my main focus from now on. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one.